All right, so let's make our way over. Thank you guys for coming to the second night of each other virtual artist talk. We're gonna start with Hannah, and her piece is right over here. Let me make sure I can move. So if you guys come on over this way, her piece is right here. And this is Hannah Cole Dahar. Is that how I say it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. And I encourage everybody to get up nice and close to see how beautiful this painting is.
Oh, thank you. So this painting came about as almost like the end of a COVID project. I had been, everything came to a halt pretty much in 2020. I couldn't really work with models. We were all stuck inside, as you know. And I would come across my son just sleeping so peacefully and so lovely in the world or in like different states all around the house. Just everything was right and wonderful in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so this piece right here, I spotted him and our dog Lucky just taking a little cat nap on the rug. So I took a quick photo of it as a reference. And the afternoon light was just so beautiful and loved the patterns. And also, I had just finished rewatching The Triplets of Bellevue, an animated movie that came out, was it 2013? Has anybody seen that film?
No, I think it was quite a bit before.
Earlier than that?
Yeah, I think.
Probably. But in there, there's a sequence where the dog, which is one of the characters, has a dream and dreams in black and white. And so, as an underpainting, and I had also read 10% of people and most animals dream in black and white.
Wow.
And so, as an underpainting, I did a black and white underpainting. And then I started thinking as I was adding chroma of, okay, so a dog's dreams in black and white, and 10% of people dream in black and white. What does a dog's vision look like? And so I looked that up and learned that dogs can't really see the color red. And I did a second layer, second like underpainting under this of how a dog would see this scene of the dog and son sleeping. And surprisingly enough, the blues stayed true, but pretty much every other color was kind of sallow and yellowed out, which was kind of cool. And then my third layer, I did it as I saw it, where the camera captured it to some degree of them just taking this moment, of closeness. And I was compelled by the textures. It's just had a very almost Rococo feel to it with just that luxe kind of boa and just the fluffiness, the softness. So
Wow, that's really fascinating. Did you take photographs of the other layers before painting over?
I did. I believe I posted them on Instagram, so it's documented
Awesome.
throughout the process.
I'm gonna have to go check that out.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I'll check it out too.
If anyone doesn't know what it's your name, right? Your handle?
Yes,
Hannah
Hannah
Cole
Cole
Dahar.
Dahar.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but it was a lot of fun to paint, and just thinking about different kinds of vision and sleep cycles, and being cocooned while we were all basically, hibernating and in our own little cocoons was kind of the impetus for this. So.
It's such a beautiful piece. I've loved having it in the gallery. And
Thank you.
Just the fabric. I mean, it's It's really lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the dog, I can see it. I can see him and
Mhm.
just the depth of it. I don't know. It's very tangible almost.
It
Very,
really,
very lovely.
it really is. It kind of reminds me too of how much dogs actually liked the pandemic. They had
Oh God.
more cuddle time, and it's just you can feel the weight of both of them on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Did anyone have any questions for Hannah? I had no idea that 10% of people dreamed in black and white.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't. You knew that?
I didn't know that.
So is
It's-
it 10% of the population or all of us 10% of the time?
I think it was 10% of the population.
Wow.
And it was really
exclusive.
because dreams have become so much a part of my work. I've been basically journaling the ones that have been interesting. And one of the things that I learned is I can smell in my dreams,
Whoa.
like odors that just like I don't know if it's memory or what, but in one dream I smelled Easter lilies so strongly, and we have nothing in the house that even remotely approaches an Easter lily. So I don't
Wow.
know, kind of cool.
That's really
Can
fascinating.
anybody taste in their dreams? Because I've had some vivid dreams where I could taste food.
Oh,
Wow. I feel like
that is so cool.
I always have dreams where I'm thirsty and I can taste like how good the water is. And then I wake up and chug water.
12% dream in black and white.
Wow.
Oh, 12%. Cool.
According to the internet.
Wow. That's
Yes,
really
according to my internet.
really
And the triplets of
fascinating.
Belleville was 2003. I'll be the fact
Okay.
checker.
All right. So I'm only a decade off.
Wow. How fascinating. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Hannah.
Well, thank you for having me. This is
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah. All right, so let's move over to the other side of the room. We're going to talk about Lee's work. So it's over the wide angle photographs over here.
I'll talk about this one. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear
Yeah.
you. Which
I'll
one
talk
first?
about the one on the right.
This one?
Okay.
Yes. I don't know where I should stand.
New Year's Eve.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
wherever's
sort of know.
comfortable.
Yeah. So, a lot of my photography is of everyday life. A lot of times it's friends and family, and I take a lot of pictures of a lot of photos of everyday situations. And so, this is a series I've been doing about group interactions, group activities, but sort of from the point of view of you have different friend or family groups and you hang out with them a lot, and then you sort of have different things you do with them that then become sort of repeated, like a certain, like, 4th of July or something like that. And then it becomes like sort of ritualized, which is, kind of you then have like more of a deeper, it's like a deeper relationship. But sometimes it can become too much in different ways. I don't have any photos here that show that, but maybe some of the others on my website do. So in this photo, this is New Year's Eve. Everybody's gathered around the TV watching. We're waiting for the ball to drop or whatever it happened to be there. But some people haven't quite made it. Some people are doing their own thing in the background. I don't know how well people can see. I'm sort of standing back, but
Yeah, feel free to go right up there, whoever wants to.
And Lee, I think I'm pulling up your website. Is it just leekilpatrick.squarespace.com?
Yep.
Nice.
Or if you go to Kilpatrick.com, it goes there straighter, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, easier to type.
Cool. I got it.
Are there any questions about that, or any questions for me? I can also talk about I have a second photo next to that one, which we can talk about next.
Where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Arlington, Massachusetts.
Arlington?
Where are you based out of?
North of Toronto in the Muskokas.
Oh, yeah. So we're by Boston. I'm by Boston.
Nice.
So.
So you know, I guess you know Danielle, like in the gallery community in Boston, then?
Yes. We used to be in a studio building together that I'm the director of, and she, but then she moved up to New Hampshire and she's got her own new stuff all going up there, like quite a bit of good stuff actually. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's just cool. It feels like you're, at least for me looking at this piece, I feel like I'm sitting in the living room with, like with you and your family. It's a very intimate sort of thing to share.
Yeah. I do a lot of that type of photography, but also the panoramic aspect. That sort of is the idea is that you're seeing it sort of the group as from the view of a member. So yeah.
Yeah, I really get that sense.
Yeah. And the panoramic photography, I started doing it just because it was like interesting, but then it also lets you do. It doesn't have to be a group. I do others that are not groups, but then you get you can get like sort of a portrait of someone, but within their environment, and you can sort of see the surroundings. But you know, different than if you're using a wide-angle lens, because then you get like a lot of like the ceiling and things like that. So
yeah,
you know, or the higher up and stuff.
And this like this photo, the New Year's Eve photo, is it completely like, is it premeditated or planned, or like a candid shot? You just feel like this is like a good moment, I'm gonna snap it while no one's really paying attention.
Yeah, it's more of the second. It's a candid shot. It wasn't like, I'm not like, hey, you fall asleep behind this chair or anything. And a lot of my photography is like where I'm involved in the scene or the scenario, in the sense of like, you know, very comfortable in it, and like I'm sort of absorbing it. That's not really the right word, but I have to sort of like be in it to get good results in many cases. I started doing this series. I'd taken a lot of photos like this, and then I was like, oh, I should do this as more of a official series. And then when I was doing that, sometimes I'd be like, oh yeah, I should take some more of these photos. But if I'm like, now I have to take them, it doesn't necessarily work. It has to be like the right feel, and, you know, sort of, I don't know what the word is. I'd be vibing with the scene and the environment and stuff. So.
And I just assume that's you on the left in the green shirt?
It is not me. I'm not. I'm behind the camera. I'm not in the. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. The whole time, I don't know why. I just assumed you.
I'm the only. That would be the only guy in the photo who's not asleep behind a chair. So maybe that was it. I don't know.
Yeah, Lee doesn't appear in any of your work. Probably not, right?
I do some, but
So very
only
rare.
rarely.
Very rare. So I painted him once, and it was very hard to get him to cooperate.
An elusive unicorn.
Yes.
Someone, if you look at this photo, I can give you some more information about like certain parts of it. If you see in the back, there's the people on the floor, and there's a white lump there. There's like a tiger under that blanket. It turns out you can see its tail, which I think someone noticed at the reception for this show, and I hadn't necessarily noticed that myself, though I'm familiar with that tiger.
That's right.
And then there's like that table in the middle. This is like at my mother's house, and there's that table in the middle, and it has that weird little thing on it. It looks like a house on wheels, but that's like what she uses as a Christmas tree now. I call it like the Christmas stagecoach. It's very strange, but she didn't want to have like a full tree and all the work that goes with that. So
I love it.
So Lee, I have a question for you.
Yep.
The two photographs, are they of the same? Are they different families? I mean, I know they're not the same people, but it's a different family altogether.
Yeah, the second one, we can go look at the second one now if you want. Who asked
Yeah,
that
because
question? Was it Hannah? I don't
it
know who
was
asked it.
Sharon. It's Sharon.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because
So,
I actually wanted. Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to tell you that the picture of the photograph of the living room and the New Year's party, it kind of evokes kind of the book The Family of Man, the famous photography
Oh, yeah.
collection. So it may be because I'm not from the United States, but this is it's sort of emblematic of an American family to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of very touching to me because first of
Mhm.
all, I can see that it's an American family. At the room, the carpet, the
Uh-huh.
furniture, the chap on the left with the baseball hat.
Yeah.
I have to say it's very good in putting forth kind of that feeling of an American family watching a part of American culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's quite powerful in that sense.
Thanks.
This would be under USA, in that book they have,
Oh,
a
yeah.
distinction of where every photograph comes from.
Yeah.
Like a typical New Year's Eve in an American household,
Mm-hmm.
So it's in like a shaggy. It looks like a bit of a shaggy rug, maybe. The paneling on the looks like paneling, but maybe it's wallpaper. Anyway, it's really very nice. I love that photograph. It's lovely. And the other one
Thanks.
just seems to me like maybe a family not. I don't know who they are. Could you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So here's this other photo here. It's called. So this is a party I was at. The person on the left, the party was in her honor, and the guy on the right that's sort of talking to her, that's her friend from college, that she'd known for like many years, and then the woman in the middle, that's that's someone who I don't know if she worked for him or with him, but she's like a good friend of his too. Her friend was there because she had like pretty advanced cancer, and he had sort of come to help her out and take care of her. And so that's sort of why it's called Kitty's Last Supper, because she died like not too long after this,
dear.
about 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, so. And there were a lot of wine bottles on that table. There was apparently a lot of wine drank that night. It seemed to be like an average of more than a bottle per person. And I didn't drink that much, so I don't know. Somebody else had to make it up. Yeah.
Which one was Kitty?
On the left, she's got her
Oh,
hands up to her face. Yeah, behind the candle there. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a beautiful and tragic moment all at the same time.
And she was a photographer. I knew her through photography. So yeah. And I had been sort of the way that this came about was I can't remember what was happening. I think I was like between jobs, but she called me up and she wanted to know if I could walk her dog. And the reason she needed someone to walk her dog is because she wasn't doing so well. And so then I ended up spending like a good deal of time with her, sort of for a while when she was sick. And I think a couple of days or like within the week after this, she went to stay with her mother down where she's from, which was like North Carolina. And then she like died within a month. And then her mother died like actually not too long after that. They both had ovarian cancer. So that was kind of sad too. Yeah.
Really sorry
Yeah.
that we lost a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what a magical moment you captured. It's so relatable. Like the expressions you got, like you feel like it's just in the middle of this just animated story and everybody is enjoying themselves. It just
the the gentleman in the back there with his hand over his mouth.
Yeah.
It seems like it's kind of this mixed emotion that I see from it. On the one side, he could be like laughing and like really enjoying his time, but on the other side, he could be like holding back like tears, and so it's kind of like this mix of like joy and sadness all at the same time in that one face.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Like when you look at it, there is so much joy, but there's also like a little bit of a, you know, sadness along with it too.
Would you have felt that if I hadn't told the story about it already?
No,
Okay.
I went well. Like I just first looked at it,
Yeah.
and I had first impression, and then now like looking at people's faces a little bit closer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm like adding that layer of like knowledge into it, or like projecting my father passed of cancer, and it's like a
Oh yeah.
sad thing. So I don't know if I'm like projecting that out, but yeah, it sort of it definitely changes like the yeah, it's like it's beautiful and tragic all at the same time.
And the placement of, I know like you just went with what was there, but maybe the way you lined it up, the candle by her, it is almost like she's looking into it and like illuminating her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
beautiful shot, really beautiful.
Thank you, Lee.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun fact, Vanessa was also an artist at the same building that Lee and I met, and that Lee is still the director of, but Vanessa's no longer there. But she is in Salem, Massachusetts.
Yeah, so thank you. So similar to Lee in capturing family, I wanted to capture family in a very different way. So this series came about when you have people who have passed. You don't have a lot of people to tell you true stories. You just have snippets of each person's story. So this represents my grandfather and my father and their complicated relationship. Both men were creatives. The first one and the first image you'll see is spaghetti, because he painted with spaghetti, my grandfather. And in the last image is a lobster, because my father was a marketing creative, and if you've ever bought a lobster at LaGuardia Airport, that is thanks to my dad through duty free. That was his big marketing thing in the early 80s. Both men had serious addictions and mental health issues, and both men died in public. But we don't have a lot of stories about either one of them, other than, memories that have been gone for 20 plus years. So the middle image is to represent that complication and the entanglement you have with your ancestors. Whether it's good, the power of creativity has flowed to me, but so has some of the other issues as well. So really kind of trying to encapsulate a snippet of stories of people you don't know. So these are it's a portrait of a memory. For my grandfather, I just have a lot of weird stories. He was not a good man. But I have a lot of pieces of his art in my house. I have this spaghetti painting. So really trying to come to terms with who they are, their alcoholism, and how my grandfather's story influenced how my father was, and how my father's story will influence mine. So in theory, this series will continue to show the threads through generations. But it's the start of just the grandfathers and my father.
So you didn't really know your grandfather that much?
I never met him. He passed away before I was born, and my father wasn't really too in touch with him at that point anyway. So I only know very small stories For the longest time, he was an artist, he was a creative, he painted with spaghetti, he died on stage. I later did find out too he was also a Nazi. In German, my family's German. World War II babies. But I also found out that he smuggled people out. So you have this really complex history with it, with someone you don't know, and you only have stories, and no one around to tell you whether those stories have been embellished over time. So it's this really kind of convoluted history you have, and you only have the objects that were left without the full stories.
With your father, did you have more of a relationship with him than your grandfather? You sort of, something you said made it seem like you were not super close at one point anyway, but.
Yeah, my father, I think we were close probably the first 10 years of my life. And then mental health issues definitely got him, and his alcoholism.
Oh, yeah.
He eventually died when I was 18. So I had a very little kid relationship with my father, but I never knew him as an adult, except for the conversation I had a couple days before he passed, when I was 18. And that's when I learned that my grandfather smuggled people out. So it's just stories. We really only have stories and sort of the legacies of these people. So I wanted to kind of encapsulate the complicated histories we have and what it does to us and what we bring along with us from generation to generation.
Yeah, it's really compelling, and I loved when you applied to this was probably stretching the limit to what I would consider a portrait, but I love that part of it, is that you can look at these objects and see a person in each of them, and it does remind it. I think it's universal, even though we all have different family stories, but we have objects that we look to and we think of a person, especially when they're gone, and that's kind of, it is what we're left with, is seeing something that reminds us of them and bringing us there. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good.
Yeah. And it was really just that core, like you're left with materials, you're left with objects with very almost like broken stories. So
yeah. And I get to see these spaghetti paintings someday.
They're like splatter paintings. I only have one of them because that's basic. It's a long story, but my mother and father, I think at some point when my grandfather passed, my grandfather had married a countess, and she wasn't giving any of the paintings. So my mom and dad had to like sneak in and take a few extra ones. So we only have one of the spaghetti paintings. It's a very, very weird stories that I have of this family.
Sounds like it could be like a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah. Very interesting characters, and they have these great little stories, but they also have this really dark side. So really trying to find that balance and also find your own, like, what does that mean for my history? What does that mean for who I am?
Yeah. Well, acknowledging it. You're ahead of the game. Can you remind me was the house in Germany?
Yeah, so this is a motel that was in Germany, or like a little inn that it is rumored that my father's family owned it at some point, but no one knows for sure. But we have this old picture of it, and when we would go to Germany, we would always photograph it. So it's always been like the lore that was part of my family, but honestly, there's no proof of it.
Wow. So is that a different photo of the same house?
It's the same house,
but it's a different photo.
Yeah, it's same photo.
Oh, okay. Which is like at a different angle.
Yeah, some of these objects came from a photo album that when my father passed, I got. That was his that was his dad's. That has no explanation, just a whole bunch of photos in it and some like weird drawings. So again, it's like another snippet of the history that I don't know, and I don't have anyone to ask.
Wow.
And these are all shot on film, medium format, and analog, so print in a dark room.
Yeah, the contrast. I love that you did it on black. It really makes. Do you often photograph on black?
Yes,
Yeah.
I love black because it isolates something, so it completely removes it and creates kind of this I hate the word uncanny, but this uncanny sort of like otherworldness where it doesn't quite fit. I'm a big fan of black velvet because it just sucks the light away. So
Is that what you use for the photos,
Yeah.
like background?
yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gives me like Twin Peaks vibes. Except it's
Nice.
not red, but with the velvet.
I also watch a lot of horror movies, so my work is heavily influenced by that. But
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you so much. Did anybody have questions for Vanessa? Maybe we got to them. Awesome.
I remember seeing this piece in person and just thought it was an amazing concept. And, you know, you get a sense for who these people were by looking at those photos. So.
thank you.
Um, so, so this painting, I'm a painter, and I work mostly, almost exclusively with oils, and color is a big kind of a feature for me. And I guess what I kind of get attracted to is just the relationships between individuals and people in little groups, or you know, a little narrative that they say. And I often start off with some sort of a reference, but then I go off from imagination. So this particular dinner actually was based on a photograph of a dinner that we had overseas on a beach. And it started with the right-hand character, which was a young man. And I just added on to that 3 other characters that I sort of had to put them there. And I just, and honestly, when I paint, I'm sort of very kind of a visceral, intuitive process. I don't plan it. It just sort of goes out of me, and just, I sort of get into this kind of I'm sure all artists feel this sort of kind of almost like a trance. And the story kind of evolved into it. This connection between these 2 females, the 2 women in the painting. We don't quite know what's going on between them, but there's a sense of some sort of tension, I think. The gaze of this gentleman on the right that's looking over at them is also kind of, open to interpretation. Everything's open to interpretation, but I think as a sort of a dynamic of a dinner that's ending in some sort of a kind of a tense situation that's open to everyone's telling of the story. What's integral to this whole thing is also the colors that sort of are very intuitive to me. And then there's a gentleman behind there who seems like a little out of place, perhaps from a different era, which is another thing that interests me a lot, is the element of maybe time, nostalgia, different periods. That's a sort of a mishmash, and hopefully put something together that leads to something a little bit harmonious. That's what I can say about this painting.
It definitely is harmonious, even though you do feel the tension. And I think a lot of that does play into the color story that you have. It feels so intentional. And thank you for explaining the process, because again, this is another piece I love looking at in the gallery. It's nice to know a little bit more behind it. I like how you start with something that's real, but then it goes into your imagination and into your process.
Yeah,
It's really beautiful.
thank you.
Anyone have questions for Sharon?
I love the tension that the plate creates by just kind of tipping over the edge a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it
right.
just adds to the narrative of it all.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that, whether it leads to sort of an uneasy feeling about people that this plate is about to fall off. But I kind of felt that it felt right. But yeah, overall, it's interesting that it came out in this kind of a little tense. The woman, the lady in pink or orange, that's sort of looking at this other one. It didn't set out, but it sort of came out that way.
And are the three utensils meant to mirror the three subjects, or are they
not
intentionally? Are they not?
It lends to the feeling that this gentleman, the one that's behind them, doesn't belong, or is sort of hovering about in a, I don't know, but yeah, I didn't think of that actually. That it's 3 to 3.
Yeah. Really beautiful.
Yeah.
Would you like to, unless anyone else has something to add, do you want to talk about your other piece as well?
Sure. The other piece, let me try and see if I can get there.
There we go.
The couple. So the couple, again, started with the seated lady, which started off from a photograph that I'd taken of somebody, didn't look at all like this, but she was seated like this, and she had a blue coat. And so it started off from something quite realistic, but then went off into this my kind of style. And the gentleman behind her was, again, this was from my mind. I think it kind of projected an early image of what my grandfather looked like when he was a young man. And it's so unintentional, two periods coming together. But I felt that this was sort of a depiction of a couple that has an interesting relationship. He has, I don't know if you can see it, but his hand is resting upon her shoulder. So he's behind her. She seems to be quite central, and I think she's quite sort of a strong character. He's behind her, so suggesting a supporting character. And now I think about my other painting, and I'm thinking the women there are quite central, as opposed to the men that seem to be more kind of supportive or not, or just sort of looking from the side. So again, this was unintentional, so it just came out. But the sense that I had from what came out of this painting is that this is a strong woman, seated with him behind her, supportive, a kind of a sensitive relationship between them. And then the background, again, I think it's also similar to the one before, and I do that quite often, is these kind of straight lines that sort of kind of, I think, fit together with the figurative, even though they're almost abstract in the background. But the colors are very central to me. Sort of, it's intuitive, but I feel like it's harmonious. Yeah, so that's it. That's what I can say about this one.
Beautiful. Yeah, the shapes kind of, they put them in a place. Like, I feel like it almost is, like the black makes it feel like space is receding, and then maybe there's a window and like a room to the behind there. Wow. But it like makes sense, but also doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Which kind of, it adds to the really more interesting, it makes you think.
And that's interesting that you're saying that, because I thought that the way he's dressed is a little bit old-fashioned, maybe. It's a little bit like what my grandfather used to kind of wear, those sweaters and the shirt underneath it, and the wide collar or the lapel coming out. So he looks a bit like from a different era.
Yeah.
And I think, so it's incongruous, the way she's dressed and that background, which is a little bit, as I said, a little bit more abstract, I think. Undefined. It's not realistic. This is not realism.
Yeah.
But so I guess open to your interpretation.
And the other one there was like a background to that too, but it was also a little abstract. it was less in reality in one sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I agree.
Yeah, he almost feels like he's floating away, like maybe like part of her subconscious rather than
Yeah.
somebody that's grounded.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a sense of like off balance in both of them, but balance that comes together through the colors and the shapes, but then with the plate and then her kind of disappearing chair, a little bit of unbalance.
Thank you, Sharon, for
Certain things that I can see.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for sharing, even though you weren't prepared. Appreciate that. This was really great. I hope everybody enjoyed. I'm sorry, it took a little time to get up and running, but I think this was really great. And there's another room of artwork too, if you guys haven't checked it out. It's right, if you go right next to where the name of the show is, you can enter through that way. And the last artist talk is going to feature be a few of the artists who are in the second room. And although I think actually Rachel is going to be in that too, and she's got the two with the light blue backgrounds here in this room. I will rearrange it so everybody is in the same room for the next talk, but it'll be the 13th, December 13th at noon. That's a Tuesday. So hopefully you can make that too, and thank you all for coming out. I hope you enjoyed the experience being in VR.
Well, thank you. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is really cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
You got
Thank
it.
you.
Took a little getting used to, but seems okay now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was so great to talk to you guys and hear about your work and, your thoughts behind it and your processes. That was really amazing. So,
Yeah, thank you guys. And like I said,
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
did record it, so I'll be compiling all these together so we can share them around.
That sounds
Thank
terrific.
you.
Yeah.
Great.
awesome.
All
Have a great
right.
night, guys.
See you
Okay.
next time. Good night, guys.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Thanks.